Hello, I'm recording this on December 18th, the day after the feast day of St. Lazarus, San Lázaro Bendito, synchronized with Babaluaye in the Lukumi tradition, also Omulu, Brazilian tradition, Cobayende in the Cuban Palo tradition. And I'm making this video, this recording, on syncretism in general, syncretism in our modern religious experience. Some background: what is syncretism? Syncretism is the combining of elements, be it beliefs, symbols, icons, from two different religions into one belief system. And it could be any two religions. Syncretism is not specific to Lukumi, Santeria. It's not specific to any religion. And one thing that you'll find is that over time, syncretism occurs in almost every religion that has contact with people outside of their own ethnic groups or their own close-knit tribal areas. Right? We see it throughout history. We see it in Christianity. And ours is no different. Brief history: syncretism, particular to the Afro-Cuban Lukumi people, has a sad but important history in understanding how our faith survived through the trials of slavery. Obviously, under Catholic oppression and Catholic slavery, when people were brought over to Cuba and they were not allowed to practice their traditional beliefs, they hid the practice of the devotion of their Orisha behind the images of Catholic saints. And over time, it sort of melded, and as the generations passed, there became a genuine faith and belief in both. Then, more current generation, people started realizing, well, now that we're not under the oppression, we don't necessarily need the syncretism anymore. So what you'll see now, modern day, most Lukumi do not have overt symbols of syncretism or overt symbols of Catholicism in their shrines. Many still do. And one of the main reasons that I'm making this video is sort of to give understanding, the cultural understanding of why Lukumi have it, why still some do, and why it's important not to vilify those that do, but understand it. And even those that don't, those of us that don't practice an active, overt syncretism, why it's not a bad idea to still study the history of syncretism in our faith. One of the things that inspired me to make this was that in the past there was more of a militant, stop the syncretism and stop it now. And this last feast day of Babaluaye, of St. Lazarus, I just saw so many beautiful things. A lot of my brothers and sisters who are either from Nigeria or had gone to Nigeria for initiation and training, even though they recognize that December 17th is not their feast day for Shokwano, Baluaye, right? Let's try to get the pronunciation right. But they even though they realized it wasn't their particular feast day, they still sort of congratulated all of us and wished us well, even shared some of their prayers. I saw it on my Facebook feed. I saw it in person. It was very nice. It was very nice seeing people from a lot of different traditions still being able to respect, honor, and even join in the blessings for such a great Orisha. And this recording is not just going to be about Babalu. I'm going to be a bit broad. I'm going to bring in some other Orishas to really drive the point home. So in the current state, I've been around long enough to hear different points of view. I've already brushed on them briefly, and I'm going to go a little deeper. So there's a few points of view. I'll start with my own, what I practice. In my shrine, you go to my shrine, there's no outward Catholic imagery. There are no saints, no Catholic saints, no crucifixes on my shrine. My Orishas are African Orishas. And that's how I view them. That's how I worship them, and it's pretty straightforward. Then you have those themselves who understand very clearly do not believe that Catholic saints and African Orisha are the same thing, may still have a statue or two at their shrines of saints in homage or in memory of the struggle that allowed the preservation of the faith in the New World. You have those. You still have some, especially the older generation, but even some today, that have a genuine belief that God is so universal, and that these primordial elemental powers just manifest themselves in different cultures in different ways, and so they actually see no contradiction in putting a saint statue next to the Orisha, right? They grew up that way, their parents grew up that way, and their grandparents grew up that way, and they have no intention of changing before they pass away. Um, that's one. That's another view. You have another view. Um, of course, you have the people who immediately began in traditional Yoruba, who never once in their life experienced syncretism until they encountered us. So it's just completely foreign. They don't understand it. And there may be, some cultural politics behind it, right? So in Nigeria, even though the English weren't Catholics, as opposed to Spain, who colonized Cuba, when the English colonized Nigeria, they were Anglican, so even the whole experience with saints to begin with wouldn't have been the same. And so just the idea of Catholic saints and Orisha to them would just be foreign, just a brand new thing to them, and maybe it's something new. So it's confusing. Then you have your individuals who believe, and I'm not going to say wrongly so, to some extent rightly so, that religion is an extension of one's culture, and if one embraces religion for the sake of identity, and then you can't necessarily separate the history of the oppressive nature of the church. And so they're in many ways militant, and militantly, and not in a violent way, and I mean that in a philosophical way. They militantly want to separate all vestiges of syncretism, because at the end of the day, while the story is nice and how it helped us preserve the religion, at the end of the day, they are still the icons and images of an oppressive ideology, an ideology that promoted slavery, promoted the oppression of the faith, the death and torture of millions. And, this is, it's old news, it's ancient history, but it is history, and it can't be ignored. And so I understand that view as well. So I'm not going to make a final determination. I'm just going to try to give a bit more information and give more of my